According to Devin Faraci, former editor-in-chief of Birth, Movies, Death, and current co-host of Marvel Vision, 20th Century Fox's contractual obligations to actors in the X-Men franchise have carried over to Disney/Marvel, and are in effect until 2025. This means that Marvel cannot recast, announce, or enter production on a film that includes roles held by some, if not all of the most recent principal actors in the Fox X-Men franchise. Deadpool 3 and Professor X in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness are exempted because they're the original actors. So it seems like if Marvel wanted to introduce Wolverine, they can't use one of the rumored actors like Taron Egerton, and would instead need to bring Hugh Jackman back. I'm not sure if they could do both at the same time. Maybe have Jackman as a variant in Secret Wars or some other project and make Egerton or whatever other actor Earth 616's version of Wolverine. But this explains why there haven't been any X-Men introduced yet, even though Marvel has had the rights back for years at this point, and there have been plenty of teases and connections made through various other projects. And Faraci said, despite the introduction of mutants at the end of Ms. Marvel, there are no mutants in Phase 5. I know why. I know why there are no mutants. And I know why this is going to take a while. There might be individual mutants. There might be other characters that show a certain interest. But the reason why is the contractual situation with the original Fox stuff being in effect until 2025. So if they don't want to use those actors, then they have to wait until that contract all expires. If they're gonna have stuff hitting in 2025 at the end of the contract, then they'll announce it. But I think they actually can't even go into production until the contract's up. So it's not even a release. It's the same thing with Superman. So they're going to be Phase 7 at the earliest. You're not gonna see mutants until Phase 7. But there are going to be mutants that will show up after the multiverse saga is over. And the Illuminati corroborated this by saying, after learning this, we did some more digging on our side and discovered the actors are not the only ones that have a standing contract tying them to the X-Men. According to our sources, Marvel is holding off on the X-Men because the producers of Fox's X-Men films are still attached via contract. Disney likely wants to not only recast many of these iconic roles, but they also want a clean break from the producers that helped shape Fox's X-Men story as well. It seems Disney's main concern is not the return of past actors as evidenced by Patrick Stewart reprising his role in Doctor Strange 2. Instead, the primary reason for waiting is presumably to get a clean break from producers like Simon Kinberg and Bryan Singer, who have no connection to the MCU thus far. If Marvel Studios were to include an X-Men movie in the MCU lineup before 2025, those previous producers would be included on any new projects as producers as well, which at minimum would mean credit and compensation, but could also mean they have some degree of story control as well. It makes sense financially that Marvel would want to wait for the X-Men, not only so that they don't have to pay out the past producers that wouldn't be connected to the franchise long term, but because if they were to recast down the road, the new actors could use the original actors' contracts to negotiate. And so yeah, that explains why we got so many new reveals at SDCC, and we'll probably get some more on Disney Plus Day and at D23, but they didn't, and most likely won't announce any X-Men related projects other than Deadpool 3. Next, if you don't want any spoilers for Black Panther Wakanda Forever or Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, then click off the video now. And if you decide to stay, then take this with a grain of salt, as I can't say for sure how accurate the Brazilian Twitter account this came from is. The plot leak for Black Panther 2 begins by saying, the movie begins with the funeral scene. T'Challa will die of an illness and will have a whole moment dedicated to him, but it's really a tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Lake Bell plays an undercover American scientist who's supposed to be Riri Williams' teacher. She knows about the girl's potential and gives advice about what Riri can do using her intelligence. Riri Williams is an MIT student prodigy who befriended Shuri while in the US and went to Wakanda. She also created a device that finds vibranium. Namor, who was born in the 1500s, is the son of a human explorer and an indigenous princess from a society called Talokan. He fought against the Spanish Inquisition, but his kingdom suffered greatly, which led them to hide underwater. He will be half mutant and half Talokan, a people described as magical. Now I want to jump in here real quick because this is interesting. I'm not sure if Marvel can use mutants individually, especially those that Fox hadn't touched without those previous producers getting credit and stuff. I would assume that Namor is a bit different since he was owned by Universal and not Fox, so that could be why he will be a mutant in the film. I guess it all just depends on what the contracts are. Does it encompass all mutants ever created, just the ones Fox owned, or just the ones they use in their movies whose actors still have pre-existing contracts? I would assume that the reason why Namor is fine and can be called a mutant is because Fox didn't own him, and there's no actor who had a contract to play Namor. So while we may not see characters like Wolverine, or unfortunately someone like Storm in Black Panther 2, we could possibly see other ones who hadn't been used before, maybe like Corsair and the Starjammers in Captain Marvel 2, or maybe even Firestar in Spider-Man 4. Anyways, the leak continues by saying, Shuri refuses to ascend to the throne, so Ramonda remains as Queen Regent. She'll be very depressed after her family's losses. Lake Bell's character uses Riri's creation to locate vibranium and discovers it in Antarctica and the Atlantic Ocean. However, the vibranium ends up awakening Talokan, and the explosion further damages Namor's kingdom, which was already in ruins from the Spanish invasion in the 1500s. This is another really interesting part that they touch upon a few times throughout the leak: Antarctica. If you remember from the comics and previous videos I've made, the Savage Lands and Antimetal or Vibranium B are hidden in Antarctica, and like I've covered before, there have been plenty of rumors about the post-credit scene setting up the Savage Lands. Anyways, the vibranium explosion kills some Talokans and Namor gets angry, going to Wakanda, wanting them to hand over the technology to repair his kingdom, but with ulterior motives, such as destroying Spain and other countries. Namora and Atuma try to capture Riri, who escapes by creating an armor made out of wrecked cars. Okoye and Nakia save Riri from the chase that goes on for most of the movie, as Riri is very important to the plot. They take the girl back to Wakanda, and Namor then decides to invade the country. Namor floods all of Nigeria, causing a genocide just to get to Wakanda, which is also affected by the tsunami that kills thousands, including Queen Ramonda. Shuri becomes extremely distraught and creates a synthetic heart-shaped herb and distributes countless vibranium suits to Riri, Okoye, Nakia, Aneka, and M'Baku, all of whom will fight Namor. Shuri tries to go to the ancestral plane to find her brother, but it's Killmonger who she sees, and he's remorseful. So to make up for it, he teaches her how to become a Black Panther. Meanwhile, the US finds out that Queen Ramonda has died and decides to break ties with Wakanda, declaring war on the country. Fights break out between Namor and Shuri, M'Baku, Okoye, and Aneka versus Atuma, and Nakia and Riri versus Namora. The Talokans are very strong, so all the Dora Milaje's assistance is needed in the fight. Shuri defeats Namor and he retreats with his people. Shuri then passes the mantle on to M'Baku, who becomes king and the new Black Panther, with Shuri staying focused only on the lab. Post-credit scenes. Dr. Doom appears at the end, being the orchestrator of the Wakanda vs. Talokan war. He's the one who hired the American scientist, who's revealed to be Lucia von Bartis. Nakia is pregnant with a boy from T'Challa, and the vibranium in Antarctica leads to a mission for Wakanda to go rescue it. The plot twist is that the Thunderbolts, comprising of Ghost, Yelena, and John Walker, are also sent by the US. And next, we have a plot leak for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania from the same source, which says the film begins with the original Kang looking at planet Earth from what looks like a room. He's not seeing the heroes, but something worse. They're alternate versions, and this scares Kang as he only fears himself. These leaks were translated from Portuguese, so some things don't make too much sense, but I am trying to make everything as easy to understand as possible. This has been the first really confusing part, but what I think it means is that Kang is looking at an alternate Earth and seeing variants of all the heroes that we know. And going back to the first episode of Loki, we know that there was already a multiverse of war, and Kang only fears himself because he knows that to survive, he has to kill all the other versions. The Marvel logo is presented after a song played on a violin, and we see a flashback. Janet is wandering around the Quantum Kingdom when she sees one of the Kangs. Feeling that he's dangerous, she asks what his intentions are. This Kang replies that only time will tell. In the present, Janet wakes up and feels Kang's presence again. She starts to get chills and hears voices. The voices she hears are all from different Kangs who managed to reach the quantum realm and transcended into the secret of time. Janet gathers the entire Ant family together and explains what happened while she was in the quantum realm through a series of flashbacks. She said she could touch the fabric of the quantum realm and saw many times universes being conquered by the same man. Upon finishing her story, a portal opens and Janet is sucked into the quantum realm. We then see a dead Kang and another Kang with a purple weapon in his hand. Behind them are some heroes: Sam, War Machine, and Wong. Kang doesn't just kill the heroes, he kills his alternate self, as he's at war with all of his other versions who have discovered the secret of time. The cool thing about this villain though is that in each universe he has a different army, including the Avengers, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and the TVA, just like we saw in Loki Season 1. Earth 616's TVA was technically being controlled by Kang, or He Who Remains, but after being transported to a different universe, we saw that that TVA was also controlled by Kang, and in this universe, the Avengers obey him. The Ant family goes to the quantum realm and discovers more about Kang's secret. He wants to reach the center of the quantum realm where he can, in a similar way to the version of Kang from Loki, separate all realities and make them either unique or constant in motion. Kang managed to create technology that puts his life on loop whenever he wants, and now he wants to do the same with the multiverse. By putting all the worlds in a constant loop, he could decide paths and realities, and if it went wrong, he could reboot them. In the quantum realm, the Ant family finds Janet with King Krylar, with whom she had a relationship during her time there. This is the softest part of the movie, as the rest will remind you of Infinity War. Krylar is raising an army against Kang, or all Kangs, including a desperate Kang who has allied himself with Krylar and the Ant family to destroy the other Kangs. It's then revealed in a plot twist that Darren Cross, the Yellow Jacket, who had been trapped in the quantum realm since the end of Ant-Man 1, was rebuilt as MODOK. MODOK wants revenge on Hope and Scott, but Cassie convinces him that greater things are at stake. Kang invades the realm of Krylar and is betrayed by MODOK, who was a double agent. MODOK steals Kang's technology and the heroes flee. Amazed by Kang's technology, MODOK then betrays Cassie, with whom he had forged a friendship, and traps the heroes inside the quantum realm, allowing him to invade Earth. But Kang already expected that outcome, and the version of MODOK trapped in the quantum realm was a variant enslaved by the more powerful Kang. MODOK is killed by the original Kang, who then meets with the Ant family. He says he's killed many Janets over eons, but doesn't remember if he's killed Scott. There's a whole debauchery, and Cassie attacks him from behind, killing him. But then Kang reappears out of nowhere and says that he can't possibly be killed. He traveled through thousands of periods of history and stayed there, waiting. So every time his original self dies in the present, his past self just replaces him, practically making him immortal. At that time, a portal opens and other characters appear and help Kang. Don't expect any crazy new heroes or anything, as they'll all be variants of Scott, Janet, Cassie, and Hope, who are there to mock the heroes, with Kang saying, "Look, these versions of you obey me." Then everybody dies. Janet, Hope, Cassie, Hank, and Scott falls to the ground and thinks about taking his own life, when a flash occurs revealing that it was all an alternate possibility that Kang showed Janet. Shocked by the villain's power, Janet sacrifices herself, killing Kang again, pleading with everyone to flee and warn the heroes of the land of the approaching universal threat. But Kang once again appears from the past and doesn't care about Janet's death. Now we don't know if she really dies, but she no longer has a body. Hank, Hope, Cassie, and Scott have a funeral, and Wong, Sam, and Hulk show up to discuss this new villain. The film ends with Wong being warned by Kamar-Taj that the veil has been broken, but this time, it wasn't in a magical way. It was an incursion, and the post-credit scene was recorded, but it hasn't been decided yet. The most recent version shows Kang talking to a pharaoh version of himself who's his right-hand man. They comment on Loki and the TVA, and Loki Season 2 will have the hero attempt a revolution against Pharaoh Kang. But let me know what you guys think about all this. What do you think about not seeing the X-Men until 2025, and what do you think about the plot leaks? Are they real or are they fake? And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you will never miss another video. Thanks for watching, and remember to wash your hands and stay safe.